So I'm delighted today to say that we have Loretto with us, and Loretto has many skills as a therapist, but one among their many skills is that Loretto practices EFT, which is emotional freedom technique. So not something that some of our clients may have heard about. So Loretto, brilliant having you here. Tell me about EFT, why you chose it, what attracts you to it.
Thank you, Ellie. It's a pleasure to be here. I started out my therapy existence as an aroma therapist, and we've all found on that journey one therapy leads to another. And I then learned Reiki, was induced into Reiki, which is an energy therapy. And I find energy therapy is really fascinating, that we can have an influence for good on other people without even being in the same room with them necessarily, and on animals and plants. And there's an experiment done on water that showed the cellular configuration of the water change with some Reiki treatments. So it's very, very powerful energy therapies are. And emotional freedom technique, I think I read about in some report on the treatment of post-traumatic stress syndrome with American soldiers who'd been through Vietnam and the other wars, and was fortunate at that time, when my interest was being kindled, to find a teacher, an instructor in Kenilworth, which was close to Sutton, that I was able to enroll on a course, and that was the beginning of my EFT journey. Emotional freedom technique just stands for that. It's based really, it's got a very long history in Chinese medicine, and on the freeing up of the fact that we've got meridians, which are channels for energy in our energy bodies. And when we experience traumas in life, or somebody's really upset us, and we've all been criticized or something awful's happened, that imprints a trauma on our energetic bodies, which can ultimately manifest as a physical symptom or physical illness. And I think we've all kind of experienced that, perhaps in history taking from clients at the centre, that there's been some trauma that's occurred, some insult to their being, that has resulted ultimately, though we may not be able to prove it, in a disease process within them. So there's evidence for these going back over 5,000 years of Chinese medicine. And this was developed originally in America by an engineer, and developed as so many therapies are. One person starts out with a great idea, it works, and then somebody else learns and it develops it further. And that's what's happened. So when I trained as an emotional freedom technique practitioner, it was more of a classical emotional freedom technique that I was taught, whereby with the client we identify the things that are bothering them, the things that are really having a bad effect on their life. We identify where on a scale of -10 to 0 that awfulness is being experienced. And the plan with the EFT is that we help that person move from that negative side of 0 into a more positive side. Mm-hmm. And so we need to be at a +7 to 10 to be really effective and really on top of our form, and it's good in the world. So that sounded wonderful. And again, because I had some experience at the cancer centre by then, I could see where this would be very, very useful for our clients. And I think especially because I'm one of a group that are called client advocates in the centre, where we meet and greet clients on their very first visit, and we introduce them to the centre and the centre to them. And this is another new experience for the person, whereas to be able to offer them at that experience or shortly afterwards some control over how they're feeling, mm-hmm. and give that person the opportunity to improve how they're feeling simply, quickly, effectively, and at no extra cost to themselves. I just thought was wonderful. So I took it up and learned it. It was great. And so I really enjoy practicing and sharing emotional freedom technique. From the original sort of quite complex process that had been developed by the originator back in the 60s. It was developed further on until in 1996. An American engineer called Gary Craig simplified it so that you can actually deal with all the meridian endings without having to do quite so many complex moves to do it. And so the whole process was greatly simplified. In this country, that was further simplified by a lady called Sylvia Hartman, who decided that very often, and I think quite rightly so, when we've been through a lot of trauma and we're having therapies of various sorts, having to go back and dwell on what that trauma was, what that insult to us was, what that injury was, it can be quite traumatic in itself. Mm-hmm. And she devised what she calls positive EFT, where we don't have to start there. Instead mm-hmm. of starting back with the fear or the phobia or whatever it is, we actually said to the client at a treatment center, right, what do you need today to make you feel better right here, right now? Mm-hmm. Do you need more joy in your life? Would you like more fun in your life? Would you like more success? Would you like more holidays? Would you like whatever? And it's the client. And for me, I think for our clients, giving the person that choice is essential. It's crucial to the success of our therapies, because very often a choice is removed from us when we become ill and we have to have various treatments. So being able to say to the person, this is your choice, to help them, we have a list of things that if they're struggling, if they can't think immediately what they want, then they can just pick one off the list that sounds right. And so we begin to tap for that. So we're cutting through any of the background. We just concentrate on the positives. What would make me feel better today? My positive is I want more fun. So we're going to tap for fun. And then we will demonstrate a series of 14 points on which we tap, which the person taps themselves. And we do maybe a couple of rounds of that. And we'll say, and before we start, I will usually say, well, where are you now? How much fun have you got on your battery today, let's say? And it could be, it could be it could be a 3, but I want to be a 7. So right, let's get us from 3 to 7. And that's the purpose of repeating the rounds. And it's lovely and easy. It's just rounds. It's just one finger or 2 fingers and just tap at various points that we will show the client. No, it's fun.
If a client booked an EFT treatment, how long does it take? What would they do? What should they expect?
What they can expect is come into come to reception first, and therapists will usually pick them up from reception and we'll take them in. And at this current time, of course, we'll have all our COVID prevention measures in place in the centre so people can feel protected and safe to attend. And the same will apply in the therapy of the therapist. We're very conscious as present. And I will list behind it that it's about freeing energy blockages. It's moving them on, just moving them. Energy needs to move within us. So EFT is about moving these blockages so that it can work their way out of our systems. So therefore, it is, I'll explain that to them. I'll check what they would need to feel better. I will explain how the process is, and I'll demonstrate that on myself. I usually start by tapping for energy, because energy is a good one to start with. It's not going to, have any nasty connotations for anyone or upset them. We'll just tap for more energy. We could always do with feeling a bit more energized. And we'll give it a number of where we're at before we start. And then we'll just tap for energy. And after we complete the round, which just includes points on the head, the forehead, side of the face, the upper and lower lip, just the top of the chest bone, and then we go on each finger. Of course, we will have washed our hands and sanitized it beforehand before we even touch our own faces. So, you know, all of that is important, particularly important at this time. And then we'll just check after that round to see how the person feels. One of my best memories that stayed with me, there's one lady who came in one day, was very upset from whatever had been going on in her life that morning, and was really, really, you know, wound up and unhappy. And just by doing a couple of breaths to center us and begin to just explain the tapping, she began to feel better. And it was just lovely to see the transformation in her face. She didn't have to say anything, just in how her appearance was after she'd done just one round even. It's great.
So quick.
So, and expect them to feel, we hope they'll feel better at the end of 2 or 3 rounds. Right.
Amazing. So before we finish off on this little session, tell me something that we wouldn't know about EFT, like a little favorite fact or something.
Well, for me, I think it's really, it's an energy therapy, and I just love energy therapies. And very often we can forget that we've got an energy body as well as a physical body. And our energy, just as we need to nurture and nourish our physical bodies, we also need to do that for energy bodies. And I am very interested in offering, because I can, offering energy therapies for animals. I've done animals, funeral, just energy healing, as I call it now. And a quote from Darwin was that we should remember there's no fundamental difference between humans and animals in our ability to feel pleasure and pain, happiness and misery. And those are all things that affect our energy bodies, whether it's a human or an animal body. And I just think, yeah, that's it. We need to look after our energy bodies.
Oh, that is lovely. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Loretto. And I'm sure lots of people will be attracted to trying an EFT treatment with you in the future.
Anywhere, anytime you can do it once you've got it.
Oh, okay. Sounds very handy. Thank you.
Thank you.